Hello again, Nick Nielsen here out at the Southeast Military Museum with its curator, Craig Bird. Craig, how are you today?
Just fabulous.
Alrighty, well we're at day 3 of our 11 days of remembrance, and we've got another big explodey thing to talk about today. What do we got?
Yeah, we're talking about our 2-inch mortar or 51 millimeter mortar. They were used basically by the infantry early on because they could lob grenades or bombs a lot further than you could throw a hand grenade. The nice thing about the mortar as well is it was portable artillery. So you could fire high explosive shells, you could fire illumination rounds at night, so it would light up the sky. It was like a big flare gun because you could launch up flares to indicate your positions, but it also fired smoke ammunition so that if you needed to provide a smoke screen for cover, if you needed to move out or cover your movement, you could also use the mortar for that as well. And you had a range of about, say, 2 kilometers, so you could actually reach out and touch someone without having to get close for that. So this one in particular has an improvised sight on it. Normally they would just be put on the ground. The white line in the barrel there would be used for aiming. But this one has a improvised sight device attached so that you could fire it a little bit more accurately at longer distances. One of the other features of this mortar too, it has a trigger mechanism so that you could drop the bomb down to the bottom and then you could wait to fire it. You'd pull the lanyard, it'd have a spring-loaded firing pin in it, and then it would be able to launch the rounds. The only drawback to all of this is it did make a lot of noise, so once you started firing the ammunition, you were drawing a lot of attention, from the enemy. So the nice thing is you could pick it up, it's lightweight, you could move it. Generally you would have 2 or 3 guys operating it. You'd have one man firing it, and then the other 2 would be preparing and getting ammunition ready to fire, depending on what you were doing.
Awesome. So obviously a very versatile weapon here. Now, do we know the history of this particular one? Where does this one come from?
Well, again, they were used during World War II. There was different variants. They actually still have them in service with Britain because they're so versatile, light, and they were kind of a primary infantry weapon. Canada used them up until just after the Korean War, and then we went up to a 60 millimeter mortar, which is just a little bit bigger, but it's similar to what the Americans had. And because we're the US's neighbor, it was a little easier to get ammunition and that sort of thing with it. Again, don't have any providence as to if it was used here in Canada or with what unit, because again, they were surplused off and deactivated after the war before they could be sold off. So we do have several types of ammunition below it, and the manuals for different countries, including the Netherlands, which I was able to pick up, which used the same mortar for their armed forces. So, and again, they're used all over, and a variant of them is still used today.
Absolutely. So the 3 different types of ammunition we have here, can you tell me about them?
So this is an example of a high explosive round. So that's what they would look like for the high explosive version. The next one is a parachute flare. So it would actually launch up just a burning magnesium canister with a parachute on it, and it would light up a huge area of several hundred meters so that you could see what was going on at night. And then the last one is the practice round. So it is just weighted. So when they were doing training with them, they would have just a propellant charge in it to launch it out to simulate actually firing the mortar. These are all, of course, not live anymore. They're just for display purposes, so they're perfectly safe in here. But it just gives you an example of the size of the type of mortar round that the infantry would have used at that time. You can also see there's a sling and a cap on it, so they're not very heavy. They can be man-portable, and yeah, we're effective out to about half a kilometer to a kilometer, depending on the type of ammunition that you were using.
All right, and the last thing I want to ask you is about this improvised sight. How exactly does somebody sight in a mortar cannon that can launch up to 2 kilometers?
Well, you would know the general area of the people or the enemy that you were shooting at, and it has similar to what would be rifle sights, as well as a leveling bubble on there, so that you could just line it up in that area You would put the elevation on the side. There's markers on the side for the distance so that you could put it at the right angle to get the most effective fire down on your enemy.
All right, well, simple as that, but it's a very, very versatile weapon that you can learn about right here at the Southeast Military Museum. Again, thank you, Craig, for the lesson today. Tune in tomorrow for another one here on discoverestevan.com. And as well, if you want to see these things in person, come to the Southeast Military Museum.